The KPAY Morning News continues now.
Just past 7 o'clock, we jump in a little bit early, kicking off hour 2. We'll have full rundown of all your headlines, sports and weather on the way, plus a check on Wall Street and also ag news coming up. But we welcome back to the KPAY Morning News, taking a little time before he off and running on the road again, Congressman James Gallagher. James, good morning again. Welcome back.
Good morning, Scott. Good to be with you guys.
You bet. Let's talk. You're going to be, you've been working, of course, with finishing out the term for Doug, leading towards November in the election, but you're going to be introducing new bills all about redistricting. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we're introducing a new bill called the Representation Act. And the focus is this, whether it's a legislature that does the redistricting or it's an independent, redistricting commission, they should always, do their absolute best to keep communities of interest together. So much like our area, right, the North State, very connected, by agriculture, by water, by rural values and lifestyle, whoever's drawing it, there should be some real teeth to make sure you can't split up those communities of interest. And so that's what this bill's focused on. It would make, whatever body's doing this, identify these communities of interest in the state, and then have real teeth to make sure that they are not divided up unnecessarily. Now, there might be some times where one town might need to be put into a different district, to meet population requirements, right? But broadly speaking, this would put real teeth, and it would actually even give you access to the courts if they do break up a community of interest in this way.
Legislatively, California doesn't do a lot right, James, but it seems that the previous plan, which was to do it once every 10 years with a bipartisan commission to keep communities of interest together, it seemed like that was actually working out pretty well in terms of representation, in terms of communities of interest, and in terms of kind of what people wanted for the state. Are you looking to introduce something like this and have it on the national level? And is it that you can only redistrict every 10 years? Is it going to be similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, this would be on the national level.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I'm saying, hey, it doesn't matter what state, is doing the redistricting. The requirement would be on them to keep communities of interest together. And I would say, yeah, broadly speaking, that has been done by the independent commission. But remember, we threw that out. We threw it all out when we did Prop 50. It was a very partisan power grab. And it was designed just to empower parties, in this case, the Democratic Party. In Texas, the Republican Party, right? But no matter who does it, it's wrong, because what happens is places lose their ability to elect the person of their choice. And instead it empowers the parties, and the special interests. And, what we want is, hey, if you're a community of interest, strong community of interest in California, every one of those should have the opportunity to elect the person of their choice. And, it's pretty clear in my election, right? I mean, the special election we held at North State communities voted overwhelmingly for me, 62% of the vote. But, if these guys have their way, right, and this is happening in many other places, not just my district, right? But if people have their way, someone else from a totally different area will have all the power and all the votes and be able to drown out our voices, right? The clear will of our voters. I can't imagine really anything more anti-democratic, than allowing that sort of thing to continue.
Well, James, you just said too, it's not just here in California. We know what the issue is with District 1, where it looks like now the way it's been redrawn, the North State here, our home turf, will have limited representation. The way it just kind of is cut and goes up the coast, from basically the Sacramento over to
Marin,
Modoc to Marin. Thank you.
This isn't the district that I'm running in, but
right.
it's another terrible district, Modoc to Marin.
Right.
Those areas have nothing in common.
I was going to ask, But I was going to ask you, too, you said it, other states. I mean, Texas comes to mind. I mean, what the Republicans did there.
I think that's wrong, too.
Okay.
Absolutely. Another one that was brought up is Memphis, that Memphis, Tennessee was cut up, so that community of interest lost its voice. So, I mean, this is I believe a very bipartisan, good government measure, to ensure that every place has, the right to elect a person, of their choice. And, not only that, man, obviously I'm fighting for that because I think we need reforms. But even though, Mike McGuire, my opponent, rigged this district, we're still going to go out there and work really hard to represent all parts of this district. And I'll tell you what, as I'm getting out on the trail, I'm finding out that people want representation over in Mendocino and Sonoma and Lake counties too. New areas that have been added to this district, but they're kind of frustrated. They see their cost of living go through the roof because of policies out of Sacramento. They're seeing, their quality of life diminish, public safety. They're concerned about their schools. And these are things that I'm talking to them a lot about. And you know what? We're gaining ground each and every day.